Hi everyone, welcome to the community classroom. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator, and we're going to be talking about staying in your own lane and tribe vibe. This is a response to Dane Calloway's work and some other work that's on YouTube, and we're going to address a number of issues here today. And one of the first things I want to say is I want to commend the young scholars out there who are out there doing work on a variety of topics, creating all sorts of wonderful YouTube content, whether we're talking about someone who's doing health content or beauty content, or they're sending out positive messages regarding life in general. I just want to commend you. You're doing a great job. There are some other people who are making some less than positive content, and we're going to address that too. But for those of you who are out there working really hard, trying to educate people, trying to expand thinking, trying to provide alternative ways of thinking about the world, that's great. That's the way scholarship works. You go out, you do your research. If other people see something different, they have a different vantage point about the world, and they present their research. And hopefully people can, share different facts and come to some middle ground sometimes. And sometimes they don't come to a middle ground. That's why there are different academic disciplines. People see the world through different lenses. And so what we're going to talk about today is this idea of staying in your own lane. In other words, minding your own business. Some people have a really difficult time with trying to define others. They want to tell other people who they are. They want to speak for others. They want to speak on behalf of others. They want to control others when they themselves feel out of control. They want to manipulate and bring pathology when that is their only tool. They want to create boundaries for others when they themselves have no boundaries. They do not know how to mind their own business because oftentimes they have no business. Let me share a story with you. It's about a little girl and her grandmother. The little girl and her grandmother, they were playing Pitty Pat. The little girl was about 5 years old. The grandmother was one of those old-fashioned grandmothers, the ones that wear those house dresses, those Mississippi, Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, South and North Carolina grandmothers. Okay, so this was a grandmother who used to play games with her granddaughter. And one of the games that they would play was Pitty Pat. And so Pitty Pat is an old card game if people are not familiar with that. And so they would play Pitty Pat. And the little girl, being at the developmental age that she was, when children are 5 years old, they like to cheat. So they like to look in people's hands. They like to play sleight of hand. They like to do all sorts of creative things. And those of you who remember being 5 or you have 5-year-olds, you probably have recognized this. Anyway, this little girl was contorting her whole body and her head, trying to look into her grandmother's hand. And the grandmother allowed her to look into her hand. And the grandmother allowed her to contort her body. The grandmother didn't move. She allowed this little girl to do all of this maneuvering, trying to look into her hand, trying to peep it out. And the grandmother did nothing. And they continued playing. And the grandmother said this to the little girl: "There's no need for you to look in my hand, because the only hand you can play is the one that you have in your hands." Now, this wasn't the modern day grandmother. This was one of those old 5 pots cooking on the Sunday, pots cooking on the stove, after church kind of grandmothers. And so this little girl knew that the grandmother not only meant business, but that there was wisdom in life in those words. And so one of the lessons is this: you can't play everyone else's hand. Most people can barely play their own hand. Some people, however, want to argue, they want to debate, they want to distract other people with foolishness and gaslighting. That's their MO. Sometimes people have no boundaries. And so therefore they want to define other people. They want everyone to be the same. But I offer you this. If everyone is the same in a conversation and everyone is saying the same thing, then one person in the conversation is unnecessary. When you hear people talk about people being alike, alike is the operative word. Alike means similar. It does not mean the same. It means that there are shared characteristics in whatever the dynamic happens to be, but it does not mean the same. So when you look on the screen, you'll notice a bunch of different faces. You'll also notice that they have the same hue. In other words, they're brown. However, these are not the same people. They are all human beings. But there's a diversity on that screen. And that diversity is fine. The only time that people have a difficult time with other people having a separate identity from them is when they are operating from a space of significant narcissism. When people are operating from a space of narcissism, they cannot see those boundary lines. They have a very difficult time with not being in control of the realities of other people. They do not feel sufficient in and of themselves. And so therefore, they often project that insufficiency onto other people. The movie Black Panther was a great example of people creating boundaries. You have Prince Njadika, Dr. Njadika. He was raised fatherless. He was exiled. He graduated from Annapolis when he was 19 years old. He had superhuman intelligence, graduated from MIT, earned a doctorate. He was Dr. Prince Njadika. Superhuman intelligence, enhanced strength and ability. Still, that family in Wakanda indicated to him that he was similar, but not the same. Now, of course, this could have been because his mother was not Wakandan. It could have been because he had been raised outside of the boundaries of Wakanda. It could be for a multiplicity of reasons. But the fact is that they were indicating to him that they did not see him as the same. And sometimes when people don't see other people as the same, but they want them to feel the same, they will attempt to control them. They feel a lot of discomfort whenever someone else is not affirming whatever they believe, whenever someone else is not seeing the world through the exact same eyes that they see the world, when someone else does not have the same perception of the world, when someone else does not share their perspective. This is why there are often religious clashes, because people often believe that in order to affirm their belief system, they need other people to believe the same thing in order for them to have a sense of validation. It is not enough for them to believe what they believe. They insist that everyone else believe it too. And in fact, this is where a lot of censoring comes from. Sometimes people are so uncomfortable with the idea that there is something called an other that they will try to silence the other so that they can feel comfortable. I'm going to give you an example. There was a comment on one of the videos. It was the one regarding alternatives for higher education for those who feel like there are limited resources and limited access in the United States. It's a video that talks about some other options. Study abroad, basically. It's a fancy speech for study abroad. Now, on this video, an individual came on and indicated that they felt offended by the use of the word Negro in the video. And in the next slide, I'm going to put a slide up there. In the next slide, I show you the conversation with the indicating that the individual was offended, and my response to the individual articulating that the word Negro was offensive. So this individual said, basically, there's no such thing as Negro American. Update your vocabulary. It is offensive. Now, let me tell you what this person sounded as if they were saying. So you see the two sentences up there. But this is what sounds like was underlying all of that. I am triggered. I am in my feelings. I want you to follow suit. I want you to shut up, but I want you to pay some attention to me. As a matter of fact, anyone coming to this page, this channel, I want them to pay attention to me. The other thing that's clear is there is a message of, I'm monitoring you. This is some foolishness. This is misbehavior. One of the things that is indicated here is the person is basically indicating that they have gotten out of their lane. And whenever you get out of your lane, sometimes you run the risk of a crash. You run the risk of running into someone else. You run the risk of overstepping boundaries. But when people are trying to engage in censoring, violating boundaries is exactly what they are seeking to do. Now, one of the things I pointed out to the individual was that on their page, on their channel, they actually have an entire playlist of their favorites on the Negro problem. And so I gave this individual some assignments, because sometimes people get defensive when people come up against them or they step into their lane. And defensiveness is not always necessary. Sometimes things serve as a teachable moment. You don't have to debate. You don't have to argue. You can give the person some work to do. And I noticed that a number of YouTube presenters might get very, very defensive, very, very upset when someone says something negative on their channel, when someone brings toxicity. When someone brings toxicity, sometimes it helps to give them that work, because clearly they are indicating that they need work assigned to them. They have some work that they need to do in life. You can also simply delete them and block them. Okay. Now let me give you a little bit more education on this. This is signaling behavior. Okay. And part of the signaling behavior is indicating the message underlying the words is, I am censoring you. And if you don't stop doing whatever it is you're doing, I'm going to flag you. I'm going to do something to stop you from doing whatever it is that you're doing. And I want to make something very clear here, because I know this gets a little confusing, because a lot of people use YouTube for income. They want an income stream, and that's the purpose of YouTube. That is not the purpose of this channel. I do not get paid for this channel. This is a free community service, hence the community classroom. You can like the videos, you can dislike the videos. It's not going to change the content. You can leave whatever types of comments you would like. That's fine. It's not going to change the content. One of the things that people have to learn to do in order to peacefully coexist, if that's what they're seeking to do. Sometimes people are not seeking to peacefully coexist, however. It's not enough to operate side by side. Some people are uncomfortable with that. But I want to encourage those of you, particularly young scholars out there, do your research and share it respectfully. And encourage other people to do the same. You don't have to agree about anything. If you can't agree, just stop trying to walk together. Because clearly, how can two walk together lest they agree? Everybody is not going to agree with you, and that needs to be fine. Who they are, debating about their identity, about their life path, trying to create boundaries, trying to stay in their own lane. And sometimes other people won't let them stay in their own lane. They kind of just want to push them aside and they want to get in the lane with them. Some people are very uncomfortable with boundaries, but boundaries are good. Good fences make good neighbors. Your vibe will attract your tribe. You don't have to work at it. You don't have to commandeer people. You don't have to coerce people. If you've got some information to share, just give it, allow them to think about it, and keep moving. And for those people who might be listening, who have a very difficult time minding their own business and staying in their own lane, learn how to leave people alone. Learn how to mind your own business and affairs. Okay? Each time someone feels empty, they don't have to constantly reach out to grasp another person. They don't have to try to commandeer the energy supply that other people have. Some people need to learn how to sit with themselves. They need to learn how to hold their peace. They need to learn when to talk and when to be quiet. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Some people need to stop trying to speak for other people, trying to speak on behalf of other people, trying to appropriate not culture, but actual identity. Only a highly narcissistic person makes a demand that someone else must be like them, that someone else must take on the banner of who another person is. Many people would do really well to just get in touch with who they are, be who they are, and stop trying to define everyone else for everyone else so that everyone else can fit into their paradigm in order to make them feel adequate about their reality, to make them feel adequate and affirmed. Stop trying to commandeer the lives of other people. If you look at your own life, you will notice that your plate is full. There's really very little time that most people have to be minding the business of others. Most plates are overflowing. There's a poem I want to share with you that goes to these points. It's called the desiderata, and the desiderata is that which is desired. And it's really some great wisdom for life. And it's really great wisdom for those who do not know how to stay in their lanes, and for those who are hoping that someone stays in their lane. And the desiderata starts off with, go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others. For even the dull and the ignorant, they too have their stories. Very important. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. And if you compare yourself with other people, you will likely become vain and bitter. For always, there will always, always, always be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Max Ehrmann also cautions, be yourself after you exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. Do not feign affection. Don't pretend to be friends when you're not. Take kindly the counsel of years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. And the things of youth basically revolve around foolishness often. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings, because many of the fears that people have are born of fatigue and loneliness. Not only be gentle with yourself, but be gentle with others, because those who have a difficult time staying in their lane, they sometimes need to be handled with kid gloves. And they sometimes need to simply be left to their own devices and their own thoughts. Allow other people to think differently. Allow other people to see the world through their lens. Be at peace with your own truth. In the law, there is a distinction between fact and truth, and oftentimes people present fact and expect other people to accept it as truth. It's the reason we have courts. People are debating about facts. Which set of facts will be believed? And the job of the jury is to determine which set of facts are the most persuasive. Which set is the most persuasive? But that's the job of the jury after hearing all of the facts. And sometimes the jury comes to a determination, and people sometimes think that the jury's determination equals truth. The jury's determination simply is a manifestation of who was most convincing. And sometimes the individual who is most convincing is not the individual who is the most truthful. Sometimes the jury is simply gullible regarding the dishonesty. Many people are often offended by every little thing these days. Very, very sensitive. Very, very quick to take offense about every little thing. And then there are those who, as we saw in the example, they feign offense. And part of that feigning offense is to distract, to derail, to draw attention to themselves versus whatever path it is you're on. You need to learn how to stay on your own path. Stop looking to the left and the right and stay on your own path. You know, some people get very, very upset. I've noticed they go on channels and they leave all sorts of interesting commentary. They are upset that whoever is providing the content is not saying exactly what they want them to say, whatever it is they believe they need them to say. And they may leave little nasty comments. They may indicate that whoever is doing the video is not teaching them the way that they believe they need to be taught. And I have a suggestion for those individuals. There's no need to constantly visit a channel that is not feeding you, if that channel is not nurturing you, there are so many YouTube channels with wonderful content. You don't have to focus on content that does not serve you. If that person doing the video is not teaching you, find another teacher. No one is holding your foot to the fire to stay on anyone's channel, listen to anything that anyone is talking about. But some people not only go on channels where people are not talking about something that has anything to do with what they want to learn, they'll go on those channels, create havoc. They're masters of chaos and confusion and discord. Okay, so they'll go and they create havoc, and they have boundless energy when it comes to this also. And they'll often even get blocked. They know they've been blocked. They've been deleted. They go and create yet another YouTube channel account and come right back. Some people don't know how to take no for an answer. Some people just have such a very difficult time with staying in their own lane and finding teachers that are there for them. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. But many people need to figure out who they are, where they are going, and who is going to best help them to get there. Everybody's not going to follow the same path in life. It's okay to follow your path, and it's okay to allow other people to follow their path. And what's even great is not trying to encumber people who are on a different path. Don't get in the way. When you see someone going down the street sometimes and you're going to crash with them, maybe you're walking, maybe you're running, it really is okay to step aside. It really is. So in closing, I'm going to say this. This is an education channel. The purpose of this channel is to provide information, to provide insight, for you to then go and do whatever it is you need to do with the information. I don't believe in information for information's sake, so I am hoping that people take the learning and do something with it. Teach someone else, create your own content. Maybe it will help you in a class you're in. One of the best things about learning is what's known as accommodation and assimilation. And so one of the best things is taking new information, mixing it around with the information that you already have, and creating new knowledge. I know they say that there's nothing new under the sun, but there are sometimes new perspectives for new generations. Knowledge is power. Take care and see you soon.
Already in ya.